Hello there. My name's Gavin Rice, and I'm Policy Director here at the Centre for Social Justice. We've just launched a new report, Making the Change, a plan to reboot British manufacturing and restore growth, in which we lay out a plan and a series of recommendations to government of how to boost and enhance the British manufacturing sector. Both the Prime Minister and the Leader of the Opposition have spoken a lot, especially recently, about the need to improve economic growth, drive up productivity, and to spread opportunity more fairly in our country. And in his speech of January this year, Rishi Sunak said, "A better future is one where our economy is growing faster, so that everybody, everywhere across our union, has new opportunities for better paying, good jobs." And the government's Levelling Up white paper noted that economic growth and the higher productivity which drives it has been over-concentrated in specific areas, particularly the southeast of England. We believe that a plan to boost British manufacturing can be part of the solution. As you can see from this graph, manufacturing as a percentage of UK national output has declined at a very alarming rate, and it's also declined faster than many comparative economies. Here you can see that we've declined in relative terms at a faster pace than either Germany or Japan. Those are well-known manufacturing nations, but we've actually declined faster than most other European economies too. And here you can see the decline in employment in manufacturing from the 1970s to the present day. And this is even in the context of a growing population. Here you can see how manufacturing employment is distributed geographically across the country, where you can see that, perhaps unsurprisingly, employment in manufacturing in London is pretty low and not very high in the east and the southeast. But there are still very high levels of employment in relative terms in the East Midlands, the West Midlands, Yorkshire and the Humber, the Northeast, and also, perhaps less obviously, in Wales and Northern Ireland too. So you can see that in those parts of the country that are most in need of levelling up and most in need of investment, there's a higher level of exposure to the phenomenon of manufacturing decline, and there's still a much higher level of dependence on manufacturing for jobs. Well, we conducted some polling on this, and we discovered some interesting things. 62% of British adults say manufacturing jobs are important to their local area, rising to 76% in manufacturing-intensive areas. But at the same time, 35% say they've witnessed a decline of manufacturing locally, rising to 41% in manufacturing areas. Half of British adults said that the decline of manufacturing was a reason to be less proud of Britain, and that was true of 53% of 2019 Conservative voters and 54% of Labour voters. 46% of adults think the government should aim to boost the manufacturing sector, and 77% believe that we've become too dependent on foreign imports as an economy. So, why manufacturing? Well, manufacturing industries tend to benefit from a productivity premium. They're on average more productive than service industries. And also, crucially, they have more capacity for productivity increases. And this comes through innovation and technology. Furthermore, manufacturing jobs have a pay premium, offering salaries that are 12% higher than equivalent service jobs. And that's true even if you control for qualification levels. And this is due in large part to their more productive and skilled nature. The UK is still the 9th largest manufacturer in the world, but this should be looked at in context. This is down from being the 6th largest as recently as 2009. Our recent experience of the global COVID-19 pandemic has caused questions to be asked about our lack of national supply chain resilience and our dependence on overseas imports. And in the context of the current energy crisis, there are now extra challenges facing British manufacturers, with skyrocketing energy prices and soaring inflation. This means that British manufacturers need more support than ever. The CSJ spoke to over 60 regional manufacturers as part of the research process for this report, convened together with Midlands Engine, Make UK, and the East Midlands Chamber. They gave us our views, their reflections, and what they would request from government by way of an industrial strategy and by way of support. Here are some interesting highlight findings from that. There was a strong desire to benefit from simpler procurement processes. Boosting post-16 apprenticeship funding came through as a very strong theme. Manufacturers tended to support that there is a deficit of STEM skills and an overall skills pipeline for manufacturing. They also said there was a need for much greater local planning between government and industry, that levelling up as a principle needs to be embedded across the whole supply chain. They said that they suffer from a high cost base compared to many overseas competitors, and that's true for components, energy costs, and also the cost of labour. They said that they needed more support with funding for R&D. Interestingly, access to credit was one of the strongest themes. They also talked about the importance of investment incentives, such as the super deduction and the investment allowance. And they also said that further education colleges are not currently supplying them with the technical skills that they need in order to recruit. And those that export also talked about trade friction, including some of the impact of Brexit. Here are some of the highlight recommendations from our report, which arose from our research. We called on the government to restore an industrial strategy 2.0 and set a target of boosting British manufacturing as part of that from 9 to 15% of GDP. We also call on the government to introduce regional industrial councils with funding and convening powers and with a remit of matching funding and skills to the needs of local industry. We call for fiscal incentives, such as the super deduction being extended and, if needed, targeted specifically at the manufacturing sector. We also suggest incentives being established for reshoring of the supply chain and to help with boosting exports. We call on the government to use post-Brexit procurement as a way to support British industry and to implement the principle of levelling up in the UK's purchasing power. We say that access to manufacturing pathways should be embedded within UK educational provision much more strongly. Funding should be provided to SMEs to help with the cost of apprenticeships, and there are other proposals for apprenticeship reform as well. And crucially, we suggest that a national plan to fill the manufacturing skills gap should be rolled out. I'd like to thank the ERA Foundation, Midlands Engine, East Midlands Chamber, Make UK, and all others who helped to contribute to the research process for this report, and everyone else who helped to make this possible. Please read our report for the full set of recommendations and for more information.